Well, it's so easy to get focused on what, on the bad stuff and what they want us to be focused on, when in reality, it's up to us to manifest our own the beautiful future that we want. It's like you can't get stuck on that one thing, and then you just kind of get in that cycle, right? It's like,
and it starts to feel almost hilarious when like Scott and I feel like rebels for sharing music about family and
yeah, and unity and love.
Welcome to another installment of Live Free. I'm your host, Gene Owens. My guests today are a married musical duo from Canada. Their new album, Love in a Hurricane, is out now and available everywhere. Please welcome Leora and Scott of Winsome Kind.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey.
So great to be here. Thanks for having us, Gene.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show. I want to talk about your new album, Love in a Hurricane, which is incredible. By the way, I've been listening to it over the last few days. It was my soundtrack for a drive up into the North Georgia mountains a couple days ago over the Thanksgiving break. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful sounding album. But before we delve into that, I want to know how Winsome Kind came to be. Like, how did y'all meet? What came first, like the musical collaboration or the romantic relationship?
It's a bit of a star-crossed lovers story. I was thinking about this the other night, actually. It's not exactly a Romeo and Juliet, tale, but
we met in another lifetime, really.
In 2012, we met doing a theater production here in Saskatchewan at the Globe Theater. It was the Buddy Holly story. So we were both, actors, musicians in the production.
And we were both I was living in Victoria on the West Coast, and Scott's obviously from the West Coast. And so it was we both were contracted to come to the prairies to do this show as professional actors and musicians. And yeah.
So did you both come from a background of like musical theater and drama? Like were y'all theater kids?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That's how we sort of both.
Although, yeah, we both got into music at pretty young age.
Yeah, I went to college in New York City for basically Broadway, style performing. And
I studied at Capilano in Vancouver, North Vancouver, and took the theater, program there. And then, I was always super interested in music as well as theater growing up, like I did. But when I was 9 years old, I was on stage at the Queen Elizabeth Theater in Vancouver doing like 4 shows a week with Donny Osmond in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. So at 9 years old, I already had this sort of, I was already getting introduced to the world of theater and music and performing, and I was hooked. And
we got hired for that specific show because we were like also musicians,
for the Buddy Holly musical.
Exactly. And I
because you could both play instruments in addition to sing.
And do lots of harmonies and play lots of other different parts. And then so we definitely fell in love. That was a big part of the of the story. And then I guess the train part is when we figured out.
Well, yeah. So we knew we sparks flew. We fell in love, love at first sight, and we knew we wanted to be together. And so we moved to Vancouver at the time, and we had heard some other friends that had done this. So
for the people that will just be listening to this, one of Scott and Leora's beautiful children is in the background trying to make an appearance.
We were trying to get nap time happening before this, but she just wasn't ready to go down yet. So our apologies. But
hey, man, as somebody that is proudly, willfully disobedient, I respect it. It's all good.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and we choose to homeschool, so we've got our kids here at home with us, and that's what we like to do. So
the baby was playing ball, and it like went under the door into the other. She just needed help.
Okay. Anyway, so as I was saying, we got so we heard some other friends of ours that had done this train trip across Canada. It's called Via Rail is the train company, and they essentially hire musicians to come on board the train to be like onboard entertainment. So we applied for this thing, we got accepted, and we're like,
it's kind of like a trade system. Like you play music and then we got to
ride the train like from Vancouver, the West Coast, all the way to Halifax on the East Coast. And they feed you on the train. You get like a sleeping car and everything.
It was pretty epic. It was a pretty epic trip.
It was incredible. And so
by the end, we had a band name, and
yeah, we
were engaged. And
we were at that point. I had a little acoustic EP, and we were just sort of playing, lots of covers and singing together, but just loving it. And we knew,
we're like, "Where's your CD?"
Yeah, where's the Winsome? And we're like, well, we're just starting to do this, so
figuring it out.
And
how did you come up with the name Winsome Kind?
Well, that kind of happened somewhat mysteriously in a way. We knew, like, we were trying to come up with a name that felt like it fit our vibe and kind of what we do together. And
my mom kind of suggested the winsome word, and then kind was shot around in some other reason. And
yes, and there's a story we like to tell of a house concert we played in Halifax.
Yeah, this is funny.
And it was sweet because it was
at a house where they were like they were scholars, and they had this beautiful library of books, and it was a husband and wife, and we said, well, we're thinking about this name Winsome Kind.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, no, like that's not you at
Winsome
all.
Kind,
no, I think that doesn't cover it. But they were in such a loving way, because they were just like in love with the music, and
yeah.
And and the wife just quietly went into the library and then came back with a thesaurus. And then started reading like all the synonyms for winsome, and it's like
alluring and
charismatic,
charming,
but in kind of a charming way. Yeah. And like by the end he was like, oh yeah, that's
you guys.
Definitely.
So the name stuck at that point. And
to me it's very fitting. I don't think you would be sound good as like the Destroyers or like
yeah,
Black
exactly.
Dawn. Winsome Kind definitely suits the music that you make, I think.
We think so too. Yeah, it's got a good feel.
So you met on doing both acting, performing in this Buddy Holly musical. Yeah. And then from there you went on and were performers on this cross-country train. And yep. During that train trip, as both working as performers on that, is kind of where the music collaboration began and your romantic relationship, and then shortly after the name Winsome Kind.
Well, the romantic stuff had already started before that, but that was really the like culmination of all the musical. Like it was. We
figured out pretty quickly that singing together was going to be one of our things, and just making harmonies came so naturally.
Yeah, well,
and
it was the songs that started to come too, right? It's because
I hadn't even written many songs until I met Scott, and then here now.
Well, and
10 years later, I mean, we've got 30-40 songs under our belt now, so it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and for me, like, I had never actually been to Saskatchewan until I came in 2012. And then after that, I obviously came back quite regularly, and I just found I was feeling inspired by this place. Having grown up on the West Coast in the mountains by the ocean, I didn't really know what to expect. And when I came out here, it's so expansive. The skies are so big. It's a very different landscape, and I felt so inspired by that. And I've
just kept pouring.
I've always felt at home here. And that's partly why we chose to. Yeah.
For myself, as an American who's not terribly familiar with the geography of Canada, Saskatchewan is it kind of like in the center of the country?
Essentially,
it's like middle Canada, like how we have middle America. Yeah. That's like kind of middle Canada.
Similar. It's right above North Dakota.
Yeah, so it's prairie.
Okay.
If you head up,
farmland,
lots of farmland and open skies, and
you can't beat the sunset though.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's for sure.
That sounds beautiful, and that's where y'all live now.
Yeah.
That's where we live in this very current moment. Yes.
Yeah, right. We just settled down into small town life in Saskatchewan here, and
small town for the very first time.
Yeah, we live.
Far we love it.
We spent years living in Vancouver, like right in the thick of East Van and the big city life, and certainly a change. But as we know,
and we've been traveling for like the last 3 years, so
yeah. Well, the
hunkering down to this quiet place feels really good.
I was going to say, just the world changed, in the last few years, as we know. And so
Absolutely.
we made some choices to, just shift up our situation and stuff, just make choices that felt more aligned with what we were actually looking for and wanting to call in. So,
And right
And
now it's peace.
yeah.
It feels good.
that's beautiful. Well, speaking of that and talking about the last 3 years and your journeys, on those journeys is kind of where a lot of the songs off the new album were formed, right? Where you were
Mhm.
on when you were traveling is where you wrote a lot of the content for this new album, right? So what you want to talk about that, talk about what inspired the songs. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's listening to the record, there seems to be like three themes that it obviously there's like moments of it that seem very autobiographical, like when you're talking about getting stuck in a snowstorm and like relying on the kindness of a stranger. And there's one line in particular, I think it's on the title track, where it's something to the effect of, it was the perfect house in the wrong town.
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
love that line because it hits me, because I often feel like that where I live, where my wife and I, in a similar way, we left the big city and came back to a small town in Georgia. And I love the house we have, but I don't really
Mm.
like the town we're in, because
Mm.
of the ideological capture. It's like a very homogenous place. Everybody kind of has one way
The
of
same.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't dig at all. But anyway, to get back to that, your album, like there was three themes that resonated with me that seemed to be reoccurring, and one was family, one was love, and one was freedom. And so, yeah, I'd just love to hear about the process of writing these songs and what your life was like during that period.
Hmm.
Well, that's beautiful. That's what rings out and true for you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we start at the beginning. We sold our home in the wrong town.
Well, you know,
uh,
in 2021, we could sort of see the writing on the wall, knowing what was coming, and we didn't really want to stick around for the sort of fallout and what
and
was.
also just in the energy of like, let's take advantage of this situation so that we can continue to grow and like show our children something beautiful in this world. And so we packed up all of our whole life,
Yeah.
including our entire music studio,
And like
into suitcases.
I don't know. I think we were trying to remember how many instruments we brought with us to Mexico. It's like 7 or
It
something. It
was
was
kind of ridiculous,
stupid, like
actually. But
ridiculous amount. But
So you were
anyway,
living in Vancouver, and then you just pack everything up, sell your
well,
house.
so we had actually moved to Regina at the time. So we'd
we
moved to the prairies 2 years before, because we were in a 1-bedroom condo in Vancouver for 7 years,
with
and
our
we had 2 little boys at the
yeah
time, and we needed to expand a little bit. But of course, in Vancouver, unless you have $1 million or 2, you can't really expand into more space in terms of on the real estate
yeah
level.
wow.
So we thought, well, let's try out something new. And then
So we moved to
we got to
Regina,
Regina, and then,
and then
everything
we bought our house, partly where that
paused.
line comes from. The perfect house in the wrong town is like we bought our house in February of 2021, like weeks before.
2020. Yeah.
No, it was 2020. Sorry, yeah, of course, February
Yeah,
2020.
it's all right. Time is
All
like
the
not used to
Nobody
timelines. Oh
knows.
my
instances,
gosh.
It's
right?
fine. And anyway, it's fine. And then we got to Mexico, and within a week we experienced our first hurricane. It was like, okay, here you go. Like, here's your
Yeah.
initiation. You wanted something more. You wanted to, experience something new. Here you go. And then, the next verses are washed our clothes in the kitchen sink, and we did. And it was kind of weird, because I was like, wow, like, it's not that we feel all of a sudden poor or desperate, but that's just what we had to do, because we were there, and we were in a hurricane.
Yep. And we
You
were
were in a
there.
literal hurricane, so
Yeah.
the
Yeah, we
title of the
literally.
album, that's literal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it wasn't like too intense. It was still a hurricane, of course, but
Yeah.
it wasn't. By the time it landed in Puerto Vallarta, where we were at the time, it wasn't too bad.
It
And
made for some beautiful poetry, and
Yeah,
it
but-
and that adventure continued, and it sort of turned into almost just a song for what continued as you're feeling to grow within us, which was like this search for community and to come back to love and to like reunite with what's really important and not get distracted by all the
all the distractions,
all the
yeah.
chaos and all the fear. And
Was there a community? Did you already have friends and connections down in Mexico?
we
Or
didn't
okay,
have very many. We had a couple of friends, which is why we picked the spot that we picked. And then it was, we had we definitely had a lot of angels along the way for sure that helped us kind of get set up. Within a week we had, a car and, everything, phones and everything that we needed to sort of
to be down there, right? And we honestly went down there with the thought of like, well, like, let's just see what happens. Like maybe we will just
stay
in Mexico and start a new life down here. Like we didn't really have sort of necessarily a
and we did
plan.
get there and there was a lot of folks with the same thinking as us. And that was really interesting. It was really interesting to sort of be like, oh, wow, all these people have the same idea. So, but also all these people, like, it does, just because we have the same idea doesn't mean we like immediately align in every single way. And so that's another learning, right? Of just like, okay, we have to just still always hold on to ourselves and what's important to us and our values. And
and that's the thing that people, I think, just forget, that we're not always going to share all the same ideas and the same beliefs. We've gotten in this world where it's like very black and white, like you're either with us or you're against us. And if like we align on this thing, we have to align on all these other things. And if not, then we can't be friends. Like that's not how civil, mature adults behave. And that's not a healthy way to go through life. Like it's great when we encounter people that share some of our beliefs, but don't share others and can challenge us and challenge our set beliefs. And we can learn from one another. And it's sad to see that, like, these days,
so polarizing, right?
It's
like,
so polarizing. It just goes from one thing, right? It's like, it was like COVID to like BLM to now is Israel, Palestine. There's always like some new thing being put forth on all the screens. What and happening in the world that divides
like real
people, and it's like forcing people, like, you have to stand on here or here, and if you're on that side, we can't be associated with each other. It's just a gross way.
It's not very human. It's not a very human way of being in the world. It's like, it's because it pits us against each other instead of finding the commonalities and finding the common ground and the reconnecting with what really matters. And it's terrible what's happening right now. Like I certainly don't support violence of any kind.
Agreed. Yeah.
But it's just
which is really why we we're just kept feeling inspired to create these songs with the feeling of, well, we have this beautiful family, and I know there's other families out there, and love and unity and freedom too. Like,
well, it's so easy to get focused on what, on the bad stuff and what they want us to be focused on, when in reality, it's up to us to manifest the beautiful future that we want. It's like you can't get stuck on that one thing, and then you just kind of get in that cycle, right? It's like,
and it starts to feel almost hilarious when, like, Scott and I feel like rebels for sharing music about family and
and unity and love and it's just like,
but
okay.
I think the world really needs it right now, and it's been great medicine for us to go through a lot of wild adventures to actually get to the point where we could record, which was after a whole almost a year in Mexico, and after free birthing our daughter up in the woods in Canada, and then moving into a camper for a year.
We were in Mexico for 8 months, and then we came back and ended up living in a camper for 16 months, where we ended up.
When you went to Mexico, did you flew to Mexico? You didn't?
Yes.
We flew to Mexico. We got pregnant almost right away, so I had my entire pregnancy in Mexico, and then we really considered having the baby down there. And then another opportunity sort of called. I always say we needed the evergreen trees and the
it just, for whatever reason, we didn't, we went to Mexico kind of searching for something. We didn't really know exactly what that something was, though. And so we we're trying to stay open to the adventure and the journey, but we ultimately didn't really feel like we found somewhere down there that felt like we wanted to,
At least not yet.
settle right away. And so it just, the way things unraveled and the way the journey unfolded, we just kind of, we felt called to come back. And I'm so glad we did, because, when you look back now, I don't know if this album would have gotten finished the way it did if we had not come back and, done.
We certainly would have not gotten stuck in a snowstorm hauling a 32-foot camper behind us through the mountains.
Yeah.
So obviously that song was written once you got back to Canada.
And so we did that, and we went all the way through the mountains, and we ended up on Salt Spring Island, which is, if you're not familiar, it's a small island between Vancouver and the big island, Vancouver Island. And there's these little Gulf islands sort of nestled in there. And it's the largest of them, but it's still a small place. And it's just absolute paradise. It's Pacific Northwest paradise. And we parked our camper under these massive
evergreens,
trees. And, it came with its challenges. Living in a camper on the wet coast. But then we just kept getting handed people's phone numbers. There's so many incredible artists on that island. And well, I know a little bit about it, because that's when we started collaborating with the song and ended up doing a music video.
That's all the footage that we shot for Bride for that music video is from Salt Spring Island there. So
it looked beautiful. And I'm still so grateful that y'all could collaborate with me on that. That's one of my favorite tracks, if not my favorite track from the whole the 2-part album that we did this year and last year. So thank you for being a part of that. It was so special to have Leora singing basically my wife's part. If my wife could sing, she would sing that part, and you did it such justice on that
so
song,
fun.
Bride.
Happy to stand in for your lovely wife for a brief moment.
You'll have to meet her at some point if y'all ever come to visit the States. We would love to host you. So you get back to Canada, you are living on this island in the camper with your kids. You have all 3 kids now? You've already given birth to the third? Okay.
Yes.
We gave birth to the third, up in the woods. And then we took the trek, so with a newborn and 2 little boys, to the island. And we were finishing it all. We were just doing it ourselves in the camper with our microphones and everything. And it sort of got to this point where it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if we can get enough clean vocal takes.
Well, the hardest part to record was the vocals, just because having the time and the quiet to be able to get good vocal takes in the camper. It was fairly easy to get everything else put together with all the guitars and stuff. But
is that because of outside noise, or is that because of the kids?
Mostly just kind of both. But just kind of kids and schedules, and it was hard. I found it challenging, as I was producing and recording the whole album, and I just found it tricky because, it's like, I can set Leora up and she can do some takes. You want to say hi to Jean, everybody? I can set her up at the mic and she can do some takes, but then I would have to go out with the kids, so it would be quiet enough so she could record and all that kind of stuff. Do you want this? So, anyway, so it just, I ended up getting the contact of a fellow on the island named Daryl Chonka, who's got a studio called Old Growth Studios there. And we went and we met up with him, and it was just a great match. We had a really similar vibe and a nice little space. And so we essentially just went there to finish just the final vocal takes on 5 or 6 songs on the album, because
so all the other basic tracks you had tracked in the home studio in the camper.
Yeah, everything else I had tracked already. I had, I did all the sequencing and stuff for bass parts and drums, and tracked all the guitars, electric, acoustic, and mandolin and everything. And we just needed to finish the lead vocal parts. We even recorded most of the background vocals, I think, were recorded in the camper. But those lead vocal parts, and it was great because it felt like we just wanted, recording is such a funny thing, right? It's like you don't want to overthink it. I feel like sometimes people overthink the recording process and they try to, we're singer-songwriters, folk artists, it's like I just wanted it to feel authentic and feel real and just like a performance. So yeah, we were able to go into the studio there, and within a couple days we recorded all the final vocal tracks, and then Daryl, we got him to mix and master as well while we were there, which was perfect. And
he had like just enough time
before
starting a big project. We were like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the record sounds amazing. I mean, it just sounds warm and organic. And, it reminds me of, like, my wife was commenting that it reminded her of like old James Taylor albums.
Cool.
Nice.
Like James Taylor and like Carole King, like that period of kind of like, like that 70s singer-songwriter vibe, and just the tone of those albums, because everything just feels so warm and analog and organic. And those elements are like sorely missing from modern music, where everything is so digitized, and there's like everything's locked to a grid, vocals are auto-tuned.
Yeah.
I mean, I was listening to the Macy's Day, watching Macy's Day Parade for Thanksgiving the other day, which I think y'all celebrate Thanksgiving on a different day. You have like Thanksgiving.
We celebrated in October.
Yeah.
In October. Okay. You weirdos, you weird Canadians.
Okay. You weirdos.
But like one, they all lip sync, right? Which I didn't realize when I was a kid.
Not
but
live.
None of it's live. They're all lip syncing on the floats, but it's like all the modern acts, it was like so heavily auto-tuned. Like you can just hear how pitch corrected all the vocals are. And there's just something human lacking from a lot of modern music. And that's the beauty of your new record, is it does. I think you capture that feeling of like two people making music in a room, two voices blending together, real acoustic instruments and electric instruments being performed live. It captures that feeling, and it's a very moving thing.
Cool.
Thank you.
What was so cool? It makes me think of "Living Free," the song "Living Free" off our album, because that was the first one we recorded when we got into the studio. And Daryl kind of set up a couple mics, and we were in different rooms, but we could see each other, and we recorded those vocals at the same time, like we were singing together. It wasn't like I did my vocal, Leora did her vocal after the fact. Like it really, and I really wanted to have.
And
those
I was wearing
elements.
the baby.
Yeah. Were you? Wait, he would just set up one mic and you would sing into the.
No, we set up a mic.
We were in like we could see each other through a window.
Each of us.
Oh, gotcha. So you still had he had the isolation.
Yeah, we still had a bit of isolation, so we could. But
I had all the kids in my isolation.
Yeah,
they were great though. They
great. The kids were awesome. They've been with our kiddos have been with us through it all. Through all the adventures, even in the studio. I remember we were finishing some stuff, and we're at Salt Spring Island, and it's what was it, March, and we're recording, and it's cold, but the boys are outside playing chess on the little table outside, and just
they're
like
troopers.
They're just troopers.
They've been along this entire adventure with us, and they
they're such a part of our story and the inspiration behind the music too, because like you were saying earlier, just as far as the sort of themes that are on the album, as far as family and love and freedom. It's like it really does feel like a revolutionary act these days to like believe in those things and to stand for those things, because
it doesn't make any noise.
Things are getting so distorted. And what do you want, sweetie girl?
She wants to live with this keyboard, which we can show it to her. But
who is which of your children is this?
This is Eliza.
This is Eliza.
Hi, Eliza.
It doesn't make any sound, love, but you can play the piano.
So Eliza is your youngest.
She was 17 months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we have Avery and Jasper, and Avery's 8, and he reads
like novels
every single day. He's just
an
like
incredible
this amazing
reader already.
Little brain. And then Jasper's 6, and he's a little firecracker. He's our little wild card. Yeah. And just so full of
creativity and spontaneity.
He's amazing.
And
that's beautiful. Did y'all come from creative families? Like were your parents because like Scott, you said you started like you were on stage with Donny Osmond when you were 9. Were your parents big in the
thankfully
arts?
my mom saw that I had a creative spark in me, but she was a school teacher and my dad was a fireman. And so
Yeah.
I didn't really come from
His
a
talent
creative
just literally
family.
just like poof came out of
But
nowhere.
the old guitar that I have that's hanging on the wall there
Oh my.
behind Leora,
Ooh.
that Gibson was actually a guitar that my grandfather bought in like 1965 in Burnaby where I was born. So my dad
But wasn't he
got the
missing a
guitar.
finger? Like he couldn't play it
Well,
very well.
see, my grandfather was a carpenter, so and he worked in a mill, and he was literally missing like ends of his fingers, but he bought this beautiful guitar and wanted to like play flamenco or something. Is what the story goes. But that was a little challenging. So, but
If
I,
only he had those finger extensions that Tommy Iommi from Black Sabbath has.
oh really? I haven't.
That's how he can shred. Yeah,
Oh,
like
crazy.
they were about to like right before Black Sabbath got big, the
Yeah.
guitar player was still working in like some like metal shop or some factory, and he actually
Like,
accidentally took the tips of his left hand, the fingers on his left hand,
Unbelievable.
buzzed
wow,
them off. So he wears like these little extensions that
crazy.
elongate his fingers to make them like the regular size, the
Man,
regular length of
humans are
fingers.
so resilient.
And maybe that's
Honestly.
why he
Like,
can shred so much, man. Like,
can't
you
feel
know,
a
Yeah,
it's
tip
just
of his
maybe.
like
fingers.
they're like
That's
bionic
incredible.
fingers.
Well, my grandpa, bless him, he really wanted to play guitar, and he bought a really nice one. And
Thanks.
thanks, Grandpa. My dad ended up, had it for years, and then my dad gave me that guitar as a graduation gift when I graduated high school. So I've had that guitar since I was, 17, 18 years old, and I've written a lot of songs on it, and I'm super blessed to have it. And that's partly that warm sound. Hey, Avery. That's partly the warm sound, like it's a 1961 Gibson J45. So it's just got such a big, beautiful, warm acoustic sound,
Yeah.
which I just love it. And I'm so blessed to have it. So
I've
That's
got
kind of
a
the interesting thing about us as a duo is I did come from a fairly musical family. Like,
here, I'll take it for a sec.
um uh so I did my dad was a choral conductor and an organist, and my mom was a singer, and so I've been singing since I was just before I could talk. And so I'm a music reader. Like I've done all the theory and everything like that. And I'm actually a published choral composer.
wow. Okay.
So when we
That's
got
awesome.
together, it was really like a whole new learning curve for me to develop our songwriting style, because I was always used to like seeing it visually, but nothing would really stick in my brain. And so now it's a much more organic process with Scott that's taken some time to like refine and some patience, but it's been really rewarding. So I just often will come up with some lyrics or melody, and then I just sort of, I don't know, I think it kind of like an ESP thing, somehow transfer it to his
Yeah.
brain and then his fingers.
Yeah,
Well,
I've never been able to. I went to music school briefly, but I could not stick with sight reading. That was like I basically
right.
just dropped that class. It was
Well,
so challenging
I
for
love
me.
it when I'm playing piano,
Yeah.
but it's almost like it's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
Well,
and
and for me, it's like I sang in choir. I learned to read music, but I always just relied on my ear so heavily. And so when I started playing guitar as a teenager, I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like I can just learn some chords. And like I had intuitively had such a sense of like melody and rhythm that I started writing songs. As soon as I started learning some guitar chords, I started writing songs like when I was a teenager. So, and I've just kind of never looked back, like, and before we met, I had a band in East Van called Reggie Blackout, and we released like an album. It's my son's like favorite band. It's like the cutest thing. But
Reggie Blackout.
He went as the lead singer of Reggie Blackout for Christmas or for
Cool,
Halloween.
yeah,
man.
I can send you a link to it. It's kind of like roots rock, reggae kind of stuff.
And you were still writing about consciousness
and
all
I was,
sorts of interesting
yeah,
things.
like I've always kind of been writing about, just exploring the human spirit, and
It's definitely a younger Scott spirit sound.
yeah, and
It's
a little
very
more
cute.
rock and roll, too, for sure. But that was kind of the foray for me into really taking my songwriting more seriously, and working on it as a craft. And then so by the time we met, I'd been recording albums and writing music, and so, but yeah, it was a cool kind of blend. I feel like we've got a cool blend between sort of all these sort of classical elements and like theater, but then
it made us really comfortable. Like we're really comfortable in front of people, and we found good live. Like it kind of works.
Yeah,
We're
you're
able to
performers, you're
play live.
entertainers, and
Yeah.
and very talented musicians. So y'all are blessed, and the world is better for it, to have such beautiful music that you create in it. So thank you. And speaking of that, why don't we? I would love to play. I think this was your latest single off the album, "Keep on Loving." Is that
Yep.
correct?
It's one of them. Yeah, one of the ones we released.
Cool.
Yeah,
Well,
filmed. You're gonna play the music video that we filmed on Salt Spring?
I think so. So let's
Sweet.
let's check it out, and then you can tell me about the process of making that video. But it's a beautiful song, and here's the video for Winsome Kind, "Keep on Loving."
If you fall down, just lie on the ground. Mother Earth will hold you now. Just keep on loving. Ooh. If you stare at the sky and you wanna cry, 'cause it's stormy but you don't know why, just keep on loving. Just keep on loving. Just keep on loving. Ooh. Just keep on loving. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh, ooh. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm telling you now, a little secret I found. There's a golden halo all around us if we keep on loving. If we keep on loving, yeah. Just keep on loving. Ooh, if we keep on loving, just keep on loving, yeah. Keep on loving. Ooh, if we keep on loving, yeah, yeah. If we keep on loving, keep on loving, 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 loving. If we keep on loving, 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 loving. Keep on loving, yeah, yeah. Just keep on loving. If we keep on loving, keep on.
It's so magical.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it turned out beautiful, and yeah, just awesome song, and magical that you were able to play such a cool sounding electric guitar riff when you weren't even plugged in up on that tree. That was
I know, how
just
does
sheer
that-
magic.
I don't know.
Magic of movies.
Magical that he could actually get into the tree and then be handed a guitar.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about that. Did you climb the tree? So
had
for people
to.
just listening to this, you'll have to go watch the video "Keep on Loving" by Winsome Kind. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But Scott is perched up high into a tree on a branch playing
Yes.
electric guitar, while Leora is lying on the ground at the base of the tree.
Yeah.
And yeah, so did you climb
Such
the
cool
tree and then somebody threw the
Someone
Stratocaster?
handed
to you?
you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fella that record that
Luckily, he was like over 6 feet tall.
that filmed it, Sid Woodward. He
Thank you.
he handed me the guitar once I got up there, and the cool thing about that tree is like we had actually gone camping on Salt Spring like not long after we met in 2013, And so we knew that this place in Salt Spring existed. And when we were there, we thought, when we were camping there, finishing the album, we thought, wouldn't it be cool to go to that tree and try to make a music video? And like,
It's on Ruckle Park. It's just a beautiful place, but
And
it
so-
was like the worst April. Like we just couldn't find a day
it
where
was
it
so
wasn't
rainy.
raining.
We kept shifting the day. We're like, oh, the weather's not good. We'll wait till tomorrow, try the net. And then
So this
finally,
was literally like the last available day we could shoot the video. And like no word of a lie, 5 minutes before that was shot, like it was pissing
it
down
was
rain.
raining and we were like, oh man. But then all of a sudden the clouds kind
sun
of
just,
parted
like,
and the
came
sun
out.
came out. We're like, all right, let's do this. So we like walked to this tree. I had brought a ladder with me because I knew this tree was big. I had climbed up that tree, 10 years previous without a ladder, but I'm glad I brought the ladder.
We
'cause
didn't kind of account for like the 10
Years of-
extra years of growth,
like,
you
trees
know, in
keep growing.
paradise.
on
So
both the
this is
tree
huge.
and Scott. So
Yeah, exactly.
No, Scott's pretty much
But
the same.
I think there's a video on our TikTok that Leora shared of like me climbing up into the tree, like trying to.
And the kids and I are like, oh my God, like, please.
I was about to have a heart attack.
Yeah, you were.
Avery.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Well, thankfully, I have done some rock climbing and some bouldering, so I kind of knew how to, where to grab and how to hoist myself up there. So
Getting down was almost scarier.
it was fine, actually. But
Anyway, it was beautiful and we're so glad it worked. We'd literally shot that in
it was-
20 minutes because it was the end of the day. We'd already shot the video for Trail of Love. So we'd already hiked out to this incredible point and done a video
Yeah.
sort of hiking with the kids. And
yeah, so it was good. It was very just like kind of spur of the moment, like let's just do this. So Leora found her spot by the tree, and I was up there in there handing me the guitar.
I was honestly like so tired by that point. All I could do was just kind of lean against the tree. And I was like, okay, hopefully this will just turn out great. And
But,
it did.
Man,
you
the visual is so cool. I just think it just looks so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful location. And so that, and you shot all the other videos on Salt Spring Island too? Is there there's
Well-
a video for Ola Ola?
Well, Ola Ola has a video, but there's footage of that from like all of our travels. So there's footage
Okay.
that we shot because I wrote Ola Ola, the initial idea for now they're playing the recorder.
That's Eliza.
That's Eliza.
Nice.
The
nice.
initial
It's a
idea
musical
for Ola-
family.
Yeah.
What are you gonna
musical
do?
family.
And who
yeah,
is
the
this?
idea
Who is this
initially-
peeking over the camera?
Yeah.
That's Avery.
There's Avery.
That's Avery. Hey Avery.
And
What's
Jasper's
Avery?
on the couch.
They're all there.
Avery. What's Avery's favorite song on the album?
What's your favorite song on the album,
From-
Avery?
from
Ola
what?
Ola.
Ola Ola. Yeah, that's what we're talking
What's
about here.
yours, Jasper?
Keep on living.
Oh, there you
Keep
go.
on loving. Nice.
Keep on loving.
Yeah,
Nice.
so Ola Ola came through like minutes after landing in Mexico, but then it kind of, it's funny actually, like the original demo for that song is very different.
Yeah, I think
It's
you're
kind of
rapping
it's
in
kind
it.
of got this like Ed Sheeran kind of like rapping verses kind of thing going on, and it was months later we ended up reworkshopping it and kind of finishing it the way it sounds now, and then I ended up playing that song at an Acapulco in 2021 when and that was partly what inspired that road trip that we went down that way. But what was I going to say about Ola
Oh, the
Ola?
video.
Oh, just the video. Yeah. So
But we finished it on Salt Spring. It
we-
does have some Salt Spring footage.
Oh yeah. But like we hit that song was finished in Mexico, and so we were just like, it kind of just worked out. Like we took some footage in Mexico, thinking, oh, wouldn't it be cool, if when we finally released this to do a video with like footage from Mexico and other places, and we ended up shooting some footage in Alberta and in Saskatchewan and on the West Coast, and kind of just like pieced it all together into the
Yeah, it was
music
like
video.
2 years in the making.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Scott brought up an Acapulco, which I'm curious about. I've been familiar with it for a while, and then I just watched that HBO documentary, The
Yeah.
Anarchist. And so you performed at it in 2021.
2021. Okay, and this is another random story.
That's a good story. I'm gonna get some.
With the
water.
reason, so we ended up at an Acapulco because of course right now there's like a shift. The fiat currencies are in trouble, and
Maybe we should explain what an Acapulco is to anybody out there that's not familiar, right? It is it's
a
an
freedom-
annual gathering, anarchist gathering of liberty-minded people.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a freedom festival, essentially, like a conference that they do for a week. And every day is sort of focused on different topics. So they'll usually cover like sustainable living. They'll do a topic on cryptocurrencies, a day on cryptocurrencies. They'll do what else did they cover while we were there?
Andy
There's
Kaufman was
like
there.
all the medical, sovereign living. It's essentially ways to to live free,
Lots of
to try to
open-minded,
to try to
intelligent people coming together, and it's very interesting. Yeah.
it was really, really fascinating to be there. And I ended up there because of the cryptocurrency pirate chain. So
It's kind of a random story.
there's so many different cryptocurrencies, and we kind of got into the crypto space a couple of years ago, just in investing a little bit here and there. And it turns out that this, I sort of discovered at the time, Jeff Berwick and the Dollar Vigilante, and he does
Right.
the
And
whole,
Jeff Berwick was the creator of Anarchapulco.
of
right?
Anarchapulco, exactly. So through
And
his
it takes
videos,
place every year in Acapulco.
yeah, and this year is the 10-year anniversary of Anarchapulco, and we've actually been invited to come back and perform at Anarchapulco with 5 Times August, actually, at the
Awesome.
festival. So I don't know if that's like officially been announced on their websites,
Yes, you're
yet,
the first to know.
but and we haven't really shared that information too much yet because we're kind of just waiting for it all to be officially, official. But
Mhm.
we're really, really excited. So we're actually heading back to Mexico in January, and then we'll be at Anarchapulco this year, which is very aptly
Anyway, long story short-
named. It's
Oh, you go
very
ahead.
aptly named Reborn.
Yeah.
And with everything that happened in Acapulco recently with the crazy storm down there, like I don't know if you heard, there was a crazy
Yeah,
hurricane, and
really bad.
like the entire
devastating
city
hurricane.
was
Mhm.
like the entire city was just essentially destroyed. And so that's Avery's showing you a rock.
Hey, Avery, what you got over there?
A green rock that looks like it has a genie and a bottle encrusted in it.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyway, yeah, so we're just really excited to be a part of it again and to head back there because it really is a wonderful gathering of freedom-minded people. Everyone, I mean, I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast, probably has some sense of what true freedom means, but people hear the word anarchy and
They get
it's
pretty
another
spooked.
they get
Yeah.
spooked, or they're like, oh man, that just
Yeah,
means chaos and
They think chaos. They think
mayhem
masked, looters throwing bricks through
Yeah.
windows.
which is in fact the complete opposite, because
Mhm.
anarchy is
Yes.
just
Does that look like us?
anarchy is literally the opposite of monarchy, right? Monarchy
It's like
means
pure, really self-responsibility, right?
yeah, monarchy means ruled by one, and anarchy means ruled by no one. It just means that I don't want to be ruled by anyone, and I don't think anyone should be. So, but anyway,
I'm
it's
right
a
there.
beautiful.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, man.
You didn't tell your story, but which
Oh,
was
yeah,
that
trying to-
you basically won a cover song contest,
So there's
kind of almost by accident.
there's a song called the Privacy Shanty, and I recorded like an acoustic version for it. I could send you the link for it if you want.
Sure,
But
yeah, please.
I ended up winning the song contest, and so I won some of this pirate chain cryptocurrency. And then we were planning this road trip to go down, the west coast of Mexico, and I literally just sent them a tweet. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be driving through. Any chance I could come play some music at this festival?" And they got back to me
play the
within,
pirate chain song.
and sing the pirate. They were like, "Oh, we would love to have you. You can play at the pirate party on the opening night." And so that was really, really fun for me to be a part of that and kind of meet some of those folks. Like I met Max Egan, I got to meet Jeff Berwick and all those folks. And I found it super inspiring just to be there and, be around those, just yeah.
You and Avery
free
learned about
thinkers.
beekeeping one day, I think?
Yeah, there was like a beekeeping workshop that we went to, and
Lots of cool things.
they offer free massage during the conference, and they feed everybody, and there's entertainment, and like it really is a pretty fantastic week. It's worth if you can come, it's worth coming for sure. Or I think you
Yeah.
can tune in online as well.
That's awesome. Well, I'm stoked that you're coming back to perform, and Winsome Kind will be performing this year, hopefully.
Winsome Kind,
we'll see.
we'll be on stage together. Yeah.
And yeah, if you get to, I don't know if you've connected with Brad from 5 Times August, but he's really a decent human being, and I've had the
Yeah,
pleasure of sharing the stage with him, and then and doing some podcasts like this. And I
Yeah.
saw him a couple months ago at the American Liberty Awards in Austin, Texas, and it
Yeah.
was nice to catch up with him. But yeah,
Sweet.
he's doing great work.
He's a very
committed.
motivated man right now,
Mhm.
and he's on a mission for sure. And I do appreciate the work that he's doing and the message that he's getting out there through his music and through his social media platforms for sure. It's it really struck a chord with me, and when he released those those first couple singles, and then Jesus What Happened to Us came out, and I was like, this song, it was like speaking to my heart, that song, and I had to do a cover version of it. I was singing that song at the freedom rallies in Regina, Saskatchewan here, and so I really appreciate what he does and the message and the music that he puts out there for sure.
Me too. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that through his music and also Free the Nation, we've all kind of connected. That there is this community globally of liberty-minded
Yeah.
artists and dissident artists to the mainstream. And yeah, we just got to keep on doing what we're doing, and politics are downstream of culture, and I think the goal is to change the culture. And right now we just have this kind of garbage culture through our music, and
it's
just
so manufactured,
perpetuates,
right?
it's just hollow, and just consumerism and fear and division, and so
to
I
think
combat that with what you're doing is the way forward.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do think it's shifting. I really feel like there are more people now that are starting to see it. They're really, and I think, it's taken some time, but I do think it's shifting. I feel like the tides are turning, and there are more people that are like, whoa, wait a second, like this isn't right.
And the shift comes from here too. Like it only shifts if we can come from a place of love, and if we can come from a place of forgiveness for ourselves and our own choices that maybe we made in the past that were, we were under the influences of fear or anything, and that's a big part of this whole self-responsibility thing. Like it does start right here,
and it's a lot of layers.
It takes a lot of conscious conscious energy and effort.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're at now, is like after all of the turmoil and trauma and division of the last few years, is how we heal those divisions, how we move forward. Because I feel like a lot of people just kind of want to pretend like it didn't happen. Kind of like when you experience something very traumatic, a lot of people just don't want to think about that anymore, and they just kind of compartmentalize it and push it off. And
it's hard to face.
It's hard to face, and it doesn't help that a lot of the people that were responsible for the lockdowns and the mandates and a lot of these things that had tremendous harms on society and the world, and the elderly and children, and that they've taken no accountability. That
for sure.
And so that, getting back to what you were saying about what Brad does, that one thing I really applaud him on is he's constantly trying to hold people accountable for what they've done over the last 3 years.
Totally.
To own up to it. And I hope that people can, just like you said, it starts on a personal level. I know y'all I don't know if you experience kind of fallouts with friends or family.
Oh yeah.
Over the
we
COVID
wrote the book
scam.
On that, my friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like anyone who stood up for what they believe and what they thought was right. I think absolutely.
But there is a fine balance too of again, just like letting go, and it's a fine balance, and we're still figuring that balance out. And part of it is
because you can't really force it, right?
You can't,
people, you have to.
Force just attracts more force.
You got to try to plant seeds, and let them germinate inside people's psyche and inside their hearts, and hopefully they'll grow.
Working on the leading by example, and just really trying to move forward in a way that feels it's not more like the world we wish to create. For sure.
Absolutely. I mean, Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." Right.
Exactly.
So I think that's what it's about. And
I feel inspired, for me personally, by I've got a sticker on my guitar that says "Give me some truth," and that's obviously from John Lennon, but he's a big inspiration for me. And give peace a chance, man. I mean, he was onto something back then, and sadly he's not around these days, but
what did you think of the new Beatles song? Have you heard the new Beatles song?
I have listened to it. It
was not my favorite.
It's okay. Like, it sounds like a Beatles song, I don't know. I think it's a bit weird that I always find it kind of weird that all these artists, especially when they're dead, they're releasing music, and it's just like, okay, I get it that their catalog is controlled by some label and some company, and I get it. The song sounds cool, but I don't know. It's not. I'm not
I'd like to
lining
think
up,
that it
but
was more about just sharing, one last collaboration
yeah,
between the
yeah.
band members, right? Like if you were in
The
a band
video,
and somebody, integral to the band passed away, and then there was some way to kind of do one last collaboration.
yeah,
I'd like to think it's about that and not about some
yeah,
sort of money grab or anything like that. I mean, God knows
totally.
they have enough money, the Beatles,
Well, right, seriously.
for
Yeah.
multiple lifetimes.
The video
Yeah.
for it was actually pretty cool. Like the way I don't know if you saw the music video for
Mhm.
it, the way that they have the sort of past footage and the current stuff, and they kind of mix it all together, and it's pretty neat. As a Beatles fan, I've got a record collection with a bunch of old Beatles records, and it was cool to see for sure.
Yeah, I too. I'm a Beatles fan.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I dug it, and it's kind of cool. And it's still, at least it is John's voice. Now it's like we have
Yeah,
the threat of AI just creating, recreating the voices of people that are deceased. Like it's
yeah,
wild that you can go on YouTube and listen to listen to a rendition of Kurt Cobain doing Foo Fighter songs. And it's
right.
like singing
That's
I
crazy.
songs
have
that weren't even
basically
written until
avoided all
after
of
he
that.
was dead. And
I
yeah, and
know.
it's
Wow.
scary how real it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that we're all sort of on this precipice right now with AI and like what is real, what isn't real, and it's just like it is kind of scary. It's like because you start to look at sort of even with images and with songs and videos and all of it, it's like they the ability to essentially create something out of just an idea that doesn't even exist. It's like, yeah, you got to have your
It's just a
thinking.
challenge for us to be more real and authentic and genuine, and yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And I think
exactly.
doing more things in real life, even though as we're having this exchange across the continent via screens,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
which is cool. And I'm glad that it allows us to connect in this way, and then give this, have this conversation, have an audience. Um, to
yeah.
discover it. But it's something about just, I think, living in the real world. Like I'm reading this book right now that was about the Generation X in Pittsburgh, where I grew up, and this one coffee shop, the Beehive, that was kind of like the epicenter for the Gen X culture and like the bands and the artists that came out in that period. And like I was so young at that time, but like I found this coffee shop when I was like my early teens, and it was such a cool place. And it
Right.
was before smartphones and before really the advent of the internet being easily accessible. Um,
Like late 90s,
yeah, in like, or even like mid 90s,
mid
and
90s. Yeah.
yeah, so if you wanted to see music, you had to go out somewhere and see it. If you wanted to like connect with your friends, you met up somewhere. There wasn't like there wasn't TikTok, and there weren't all these social media apps, and it's like you had to live in the real world. And I wish that we could get back to that. And I think as things are getting more as technology advances and is making things less human and pulling us away from like what we're meant to be and how we're meant to live, I think the way is to like get back in person. So it's great, like things like Anarchapulco and having real concerts, having real meetups, frequenting local businesses and connecting with people there, and spending less time on screens and gadgets.
Well, I mean, that was
Absolutely.
certainly a side effect of our travels. Really, was like, wow, we just gifted ourselves and our children, who are such extroverted, community-minded little souls. Like, we met hundreds of new people,
Oh,
and we had real interactions with so many incredible people. And I think that's one of the, as much as it was kind of exhausting after a while, was such a big gift of just like getting out there
yeah.
and just, okay, who are we gonna meet today?
Well, and
And
just surrendering to the moment,
yeah, for sure.
and traveling has an amazing way of doing that. When you get out, it puts you out of your comfort zone, and you kind of you got to adapt
Yeah.
and be in the moment for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all for being a part of this episode and for sharing your stories. How can people find you, and how can they support what you're doing? Like, what's the best way to support Winsome Kind? Is it buying your CD? Is it buying it on iTunes? Where can people find you, and how can people best support you?
Okay.
Great question.
Well, definitely, you
Check
find
out our website for sure.
website.
And I mean, you
Yeah.
can find us in all the places.
So it's winsomekind.com. WINSOME kind.com.
We're going to be starting a Patreon soon, so that's kind of an exciting thing for us. We're it's in our minds to how would you describe it?
To
Invite more support in actual real life ways, as opposed to just giving the music away all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, buy the album for sure. We'd love for you to
Absolutely.
share it with somebody, who
we're gonna
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Our CD's available. We're in the process of trying to get our shop up on our website properly too. So we do have some shirts and stuff, but
Yeah, because you
those
can get
aren't-
everything through Bandcamp right now. We'd
Yeah.
like to move that over to our
but
website.
Bandcamp is not the best at times. So but we're getting in the process of getting that set up, and then like Leora said, we're going to be starting a Patreon here in the next week. I think we're going to try to launch it on December 1st, and so we're hoping to provide some really cool kind of behind the scenes exclusive stuff through that, hopefully at an accessible price point for people as well, just as a way and again, like, we're just trying to figure out ways to
In the
not
spirit of
give it all away for free.
Yeah, and just
But-
a community that feels really supportive
Mhm.
as well. And we have lots of cool things to offer that we haven't shared about, yet.
Yeah, including like demos, behind the scenes videos. Like, just we got lots of so many
We got stories.
pictures. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have way too much fun doing all that. So
Yeah,
anyway.
we just did some lives of our album just to get in front of the camera, and we were we've been having fun.
Yeah,
Awesome, y'all.
thanks for having
Well,
us. Gene.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, and I'll put links to your website and socials in the show notes. To everybody out there, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing it with your friends. And until next time, live free. And on that note, I'm going to play us out with another song from Winsome Kind's incredible album, Love in a Hurricane. This is, appropriately enough, Living Free.
I'm living free.